Welcome, everybody. Glad you could join us tonight. Welcome to the monthly meeting of our nonprofit plant-based nutrition organization of Wisconsin, or PBNOW. I'm your host, Terry Lynch. The mission of our nonprofit group is to educate, inspire, and support each other on an evidence-backed, whole plant food-based nutritional path for a healthier and happier life. Our group is open to everyone, those plant-based and those just curious about it. It's meant to be a non-judgmental place to get information, inspiration, and support. If you'd like more information about our group, our upcoming meeting dates, speakers, and resources, or to check out videos of our past meetings, just Google us at PBNOW. As we do each time, can I see a show of hands, either by raising your hand or using the thumbs up reaction icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, to show how many of you are currently following a predominantly plant-based lifestyle? Oh, there's some real thumbs, right? Oh, that's great. That's probably about 40%. Excellent. Thank you. As we mentioned at the beginning of each meeting, the evidence of the benefits of plant-based nutrition in improving health and quality of life for people of all ages, as published in non-biased medical research, is quite striking. Whether it's improving health through increased energy, weight loss, strengthening our immune system, preventing, slowing, stopping, reversing problems like allergies, digestive problems, diabetes, heart disease, and even early dementia, or increasing quality of life by helping us feel better quickly, increasing our endurance, improving athletic performance, speeding recovery from exercise, reducing joint pain, clearing thinking, or reducing the physical, emotional, and financial side effects of the illnesses, drugs, and procedures often recommended to treat the conditions plant-based nutrition may help us avoid. The research shows our bodies do a wonderful job of healing themselves if we stop inadvertently damaging them daily with poor nutrition and start giving them the nutrition they need to heal and function optimally. It's truly remarkable. Now, let me tell you what's in store for you tonight. Tonight, we'll hear from two speakers. Our first speaker will be our PBNOW Medical Director, Dr. Joshua Lieberman, who will speak to us for 10 to 15 minutes or so and with his beneficial monthly comments. Dr. Lieberman will be followed by our featured speaker, plant-based health coach, Michele Stamn. At the end of Michelle's presentation, we should have time for Q&A. By the way, don't hesitate to pop your questions in the chat box during the presentations, and we'll try to answer as many of them as time permits at the end of the presentation. Tonight's program should end about 7:30. As a reminder, we have meetings nearly every month, usually on the second Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. And I say nearly every month because next month we'll actually be taking a summer break, and we'll be back on August 14th, when we'll hear from Denver cardiologist, Dr. Andrew Freeman. We'll post more information about our upcoming meetings on our website, pbnow.org. If you register on the website or are already registered, you'll receive email reminders of our events as they approach. Last, a quick technical note. During the meeting, everyone but the speakers should be or will be muted, and we ask that you stay muted to avoid background noise and allow everyone to hear the speakers. All right, here we go. Our first speaker tonight is a fellowship-trained cardiologist. He's president and CEO of Wisconsin Cardiology Associates, and is past president and current trustee of the Wisconsin chapter of the American College of Cardiology. He's a member of the American College of Cardiology's National Nutrition and Lifestyle Work Group, whose membership includes nationally known physicians such as Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Neil Barnard, and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. He's an advocate for the use of plant-based nutrition to help improve heart health, general health, and quality of life, and has seen the benefits of plant-based nutrition in both his personal life and that of his patients. We're fortunate to have him here in Milwaukee and as our PBNOW Medical Director. I'm happy to welcome Dr. Joshua Lieberman. Dr. Lieberman?
Thanks, Terry. Thanks for the nice introduction as usual. Hopefully everybody's doing well tonight. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel much like summer out there right now. You know, it's cold, and we were all looking forward to summer through the dark winter months. but we're still not quite there yet, unfortunately. But welcome tonight. As Terry said, I'm Joshua Liverman. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and advocate for plant-based diets in my practice, and certainly advocate for my patients to adopt, if they can, plant-based diets or plant-based lifestyles. And I usually take this opportunity. I wasn't here last month, but I usually take this opportunity to talk about, a case from my practice, as well as some of the recent literature. And I actually had a patient today that made me think about taking a slightly different approach tonight. But maybe bear with me and hopefully. My pleasure. Oops, sorry. Siri is triggering.
What's that?
I said thanks, Harry, and my phone and my computer thought I said thanks, Siri. So,
Sure.
Modern technology, right? In any case, so saw a patient today for the second time. I had seen her first about 2 months ago. She's in her early 70s, and she came to me with a couple different issues, but one of the issues was not feeling well on some of her blood pressure medications. So she was on 3 blood pressure medications and felt like she was having side effects from them. And that's a common presentation for a lot of patients these days. Is there's a lot of medications out there. Medications can be really good, but not all medications are good for everybody, and some people can have side effects. And she felt she was having some pretty significant side effects. And so when I see a patient like her, and for anybody on this call, you should also do this yourself, is to say, okay, well, let's try to figure out maybe what's contributing to the high blood pressure, right? What's the need for medications? Is there a way, with all my patients, I try to see, is there a way we can do this more naturally? And again, I'm not anti-medicine. I use a lot of medications on a hourly basis in my practice, not just daily basis. I mean, lots of people need medications, but they're not for everybody. And there are some people certainly out there that can improve their health without. And so when I saw her originally, um, we started talking about her lifestyle, of course, and we started talking about her diet and her activity patterns and lifestyle patterns. And what I quickly realized is that there were a lot of activity patterns and lifestyle patterns that were contributing to her having high blood pressure. So what were some of these? Well, one was alcohol intake. She without really realizing it had kind of slowly migrated into a more or less daily drinking habit. Cocktail with dinner. A lot of people in Wisconsin do that. I don't know. We have a lot of people from outside Wisconsin on this call, but certainly drinking is almost a national, a state level sport in this state. But she was probably drinking a little bit much. She had gone through a divorce, about a year or two ago, and was somewhat feeling a little bit lonely, and she was just having a drink and watching TV or whatnot, and that helped her relax at the end of a long day, I guess. But certainly we know that increased alcohol intake can raise blood pressure. So we talked about that and talked about maybe potentially cutting down on alcohol intake to lower her blood pressure. Other thing we noticed is that she wasn't doing a lot of exercise. And so we talked about trying to institute an exercise program, and not like going to a fitness center or buying a fitness center membership or buying something expensive like a Peloton or something like that. Really, what we talked about was just a half an hour of walking a day. Just get out, get some fresh air, go for a half an hour walking a day. Final thing we talked about was salt. And like a lot of people in this country, she was using a fair amount of salt in her diet, not necessarily shaking salt onto food once it was cooked, but using a lot in the cooking itself. And then, obviously, a lot of things we eat have a ton of sodium in them. And of course, she said to me something that I feel like every third person is saying to me these days, which is, "It's okay, doc. It's Himalayan pink salt, so it's fine. It's healthy for you, right?" And of course, that's just a bunch of bunk. Himalayan pink salt is cool. It looks cool. Maybe has a little bit more flavor because the extra elements and minerals in it, but it still is sodium, and sodium raises blood pressure. So we decided together to tackle those 3 things: decreasing alcohol, starting a daily walk, and decreasing sodium. And she came back today to, 2 months later, to see if we could see the effects of what she did. And sure enough, her blood pressure was perfect. And you say, well, of course, why wouldn't it be perfect? Well, it was perfect. And she was down to 1 medication. She had already gotten rid of 2 medications. And she hadn't even taken her medication. The 1 medication she hadn't even taken today, and her blood pressure was perfect. Now, that's just 1 day, But my suspicion is that she doesn't even need that one anymore. And so I asked her to officially stop that final third medication, and to check her blood pressure for the next 2 weeks without any medication to see what it is. Maybe it turns out that she needs one medication, maybe a half dose of that one medication. But the point is that she was able to dramatically reduce her medication burden with just some lifestyle changes alone. And they're really very simple changes. And maybe most importantly, she was feeling better, right? Because she wasn't getting side effects from the medication. She wasn't feeling sluggish. She wasn't having any issues from medication anymore, because she was feeling much better. So with some simple lifestyle changes, she was able to control blood pressure. Now, what that made me think about was actually a blog I had written for my website this past month. And I know that some of my patients are on this call, and I hope you'll forgive me if this is repetitive for you folks, and certainly because I talk about this stuff all the time. But there's a lot of other people on the call, so I figured it might be useful to just talk about blood pressure also, and maybe give some overview of how there's a difference between chronic high blood pressure, which is very, very important to control, and intermittent high blood pressure, right? So we get calls all the time, unfortunately, about patients that are worried about their blood pressure. Dr. Lieberman, my blood pressure was high today. Dr. Lieberman, my blood pressure was high this morning. Dr. Lieberman, my blood pressure was high last night for an hour. What does that mean? And at the end of the day, intermittent high blood pressure is not something to be worried about. Blood pressure is intended to be variable. Whether you believe in God or not, or nature or evolution or whatever, we developed with the capacity to rapidly change blood pressure, right? We needed to do it in order to go from a resting state to all of a sudden having to run away from a saber-toothed tiger that might have been rustling in the leaves behind us, right? So we need to be able to rapidly mobilize high blood pressure, but then it should come down afterwards. The problem is, for a lot of people in this country, certainly, blood pressure doesn't come down afterwards, right? It just is staying high. But blood pressure is critical. High blood pressure is a bad thing. Chronic high blood pressure, I should say, is a bad thing. We know that the most recent statistics put up by the American Heart Association came from 2022. And they reported, actually, it was the CDC that reported this, that almost 700,000 deaths in the year 2022 were either blood pressure either primarily led to the death or contributed to the death. 700,000 deaths in the year 2022. Blood pressure was a primary contributing factor. And we know that for every 10 points or millimeters of mercury drop in blood pressure, you can lower your risk of stroke by almost a third, your risk of heart failure by almost a third, and your risk of dying from any cause by about 13%. And that comes from American Heart Association statistics. And so as a result, certainly doctors are trained from day one, nurse practitioners to physician assistants, we are all trained from day one of medical training to control blood pressure. Now, what a lot of people out there may not realize, and I'm kind of a history buff, and it's really interesting to me at least, is that for the first part of the 1900s, the 20th century, it wasn't really clear that blood pressure, it wasn't clear to the healthcare community, certainly, that blood pressure was an issue. And there was some thought that actually higher blood pressure helped blood get up to the brain and helped blood get past blockages in the neck, for example. And high blood pressure was maybe even a good thing. It wasn't until really the 1950s and 1960s that people, certainly healthcare providers, started realizing that blood pressure was bad for health. And I guess this is easier in a lecture form where I can ask for a show of hands or ask people to shout out. Maybe I should do that in the chat box. But does anybody out there know who actually was first? What industry? I'll give it away. What industry was first to identify that blood pressure was bad for health? Any thoughts? Think about it for a second. Actually, it was the insurance industry, the life insurance industry. They kept tons of data, actuarial tables about smoking, all these different characteristics, weight, height, all these different characteristics, in order to try to find out what rates they should charge different people for life insurance, and who they needed to charge more and who they need to charge less. And one of the major critical factors that they identified, insurance companies identified, life insurance companies identified in the early 1900s, was blood pressure. They saw that people with high blood pressure died early much more frequently than people with normal blood pressure. And so the life insurance industry was clued in, and they raised the rates of people with high blood pressure. And, to be honest, the healthcare community fought against that for a while. We even called blood pressure for the first part of the 1900s benign essential hypertension. Benign. We actually use the word benign with high blood pressure. Pretty crazy in retrospect. But as I said, it wasn't until the 1950s, 1960s, and one of the first things that really showed this was the Framingham Heart Study. I know a lot of people out there probably are familiar with that term, the Framingham Heart Study. This was a population-based research study based out of Framingham, Massachusetts, which is just about 30 to 40 minutes west of Boston, looking at just a large population of people and following them and just recording, much like the insurance industry did, recording their characteristics, cholesterol levels, blood pressure, all sorts of different things at the time, sex, weight, height, all these different things. And sure enough, they finally also documented and proved the link between blood pressure and worse outcomes. And that was ultimately what changed the opinions of the healthcare community. This was followed by randomized controlled clinical trials that started actually in veterans populations. The VA administration led a lot of these really critical landmark trials in the 1970s, proving also that lowering blood pressure led to better outcomes. So with 100 years of research backing up now the fact that blood pressure is a bad thing, we in the healthcare community have gone overboard. It's like a pendulum swinging the other direction. And now, we've been taught to hammer down any elevated blood pressure. But it turns out that this is not actually helpful. So, there's actually research that shows that when patients in the hospital that have intermittent high blood pressure that get put on more and more medications while they're in the hospital tend to have worse outcomes than if you just let their blood pressure even out. A lot of primary care doctors, a person will come in with a blood pressure in the 190s or 200s, and the primary care doctor will maybe freak out and send them directly to the ER, directly for admission to the hospital or to an urgent care for management. And again, this has been looked at where groups of people were compared, those who were sent to the hospital because they had high blood pressure in the office versus those who were just sent home. And there were no differences in their outcomes at the end of 6 months, right? So high blood pressure, instantaneous intermittent high blood pressure, is not dangerous to the human body. And we know this from physiologic studies looking at weightlifters, right? So these are, professional weightlifters, the guys you might see in the Olympics that are like carrying those heavy bars, and every single, you could, on high res TVs, our really high definition TVs, you can see like veins popping, like everything like that, like these guys are really, you feel like they're going to like burst an aneurysm right there on TV. Any idea? Does anybody out there have any idea? And again, if you've read my blog, you have a clue. But any idea what their blood pressures get to when they're doing that? Guess yourself. Again, Zoom when everyone is silenced. It's not very easy to do this kind of a trivia contest. But just guess in your head. And I'm telling you right now, whatever number you've guessed, double it. That's right. Blood pressure in weightlifters. So these were done studies in the 1980s where they put arterial catheters into these weightlifters' wrists or arms and had them do exercise. And so they were directly measuring the pressure. This is not a cuff that takes time to go up or anything like that. They were directly measuring blood pressure. And the average blood pressure for the weightlifters was 320 over 250. 320 over 250. And the highest, one subject actually got a blood pressure up to 480 systolic, 480 millimeters of mercury. This wasn't just one, you can say, oh, that was just one study. Maybe they were, maybe it was mistaken, whatever, this, that, the other thing. And nope, the answer is that this was repeated a couple years later. And sure enough, they saw similarly in another study, routinely blood pressures were getting into the mid 300s in weightlifters. And this was in the 1980s. So for over 40 years, we know that blood pressure can go sky high and it's not an imminent threat to you, right? So again, the point is that chronic blood pressure is a very, very bad thing. And we know that it is the main contributor to almost 750,000 deaths every year. But intermittent, variable, fluctuating blood pressure is not an issue. So I tell all my patients, do not worry about instantaneous, intermittent, oh my God, my blood pressure was super high. I got a bad phone call. I was this, I was that. Even if you don't know why it was high, the key is, what is it on average? Check your blood pressure the next day, the third day, the fourth day. Follow your blood pressure. And if it's normal on average, you got nothing to worry about. But high blood pressure intermittently is not an issue. High blood pressure on average is definitely an issue. So with that being said, lifestyle changes can definitely lower blood pressure. Watching salt intake, and even if you're eating a plant-based diet, a lot of plant-based foods can have, especially all like the fake meats or super highly processed plant-based foods, will have tons of sodium in them. Impossible burgers, Beyond Burgers, tons of sodium. So I don't want anybody on this call to think, oh, I eat a plant-based diet, I don't have to worry about that. That is not true. So watch your sodium intake, exercise regularly, and don't drink Wisconsin levels of alcohol. And if you can do those things, you'll be fine. So with that, I'll turn it over to Terry and Michelle.
Thanks, Dr. Lieberman. That was great. And we do have two quick questions that we want to get to Michelle here, so I'll ask these real quick. Let's see. Whoops, I think we've got more than two in here. Sorry for taking the time here, but there were a lot of comments, so I'm just quick. Okay, Warren asks a terminology question for Dr. Lieberman regarding meds. Can you explain the difference between side effects and toxicity?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are completely unrelated terms. Side effects, 90 to 99% of side effects with medications are benign. They're bothersome. They don't cause you to feel well, but it doesn't mean that you are damaging tissue or shortening your lifespan or hurting your longevity or anything like that. They're causing either known or off-target effects, and people don't feel good from it. Having dizziness or fatigue from blood pressure medicine is a side effect, but it's usually caused because your blood pressure is now lower than you're used to, and your body isn't used to it, or it's gone too low, right? So those are what are certainly what I would term side effects. Toxicity, or when there are certainly medicines out there that if you take in higher dosages than your body is designed to handle or can handle, can actually cause problems, where they're actually causing kidney issues or liver, like when I say issues, like decline in kidney function or inflammation or damage to kidney, liver problems where you're actually having liver damage or liver inflammation, right? Or weakness of the heart or things like that, right? So those would be toxicity of medications. I don't think that it's just I guess from the way you're asking it, it makes it seem like you think that it's just a question of degree. And I would totally disagree with that. I think side effects, for the most part, are benign but annoying, whereas toxicity is actually worrisome.
And the last question, real quick one from Lonnie. Can you talk about glucose spikes and mildly elevated glucose levels?
I mean, I can. It has obviously nothing to do with blood pressure.
Right.
Eating something that's very sugary will tend to cause a glucose spike. But depending on how your body makes, secretes, and processes insulin, how it responds to insulin, that glucose can rapidly be corrected by your body, and there is no long-term injury from that. The problem is that if you continue to do this over and over again throughout the day, day after day, week after week, month after month, your body loses its ability to rapidly react, and your response to that stays abnormal for maybe 15, 30, minutes, an hour, 2 hours afterwards. And that's when you start running into what we call insulin resistance or glucose homeostasis, glucose metabolism issues. So, a glucose spike in and of itself isn't necessarily dangerous. It's when it's repeated frequently over time that it becomes an issue.
Our featured speaker tonight has over 30 years of experience helping people achieve their wellness goals. She did it first as a physical therapist, and now as the founder of wellness-empowered plant-based health coaching. As a physical therapist, she witnessed firsthand the devastating health ramifications of the standard American diet. As she learned about the benefits of a plant-based diet and started eating that way herself, she realized that many of her patients could have avoided the serious health challenges they were faced with just by changing what they ate. It became her mission to meet those people before they ever became seriously ill, helping them to eat plant-based so that they would never end up in those situations. As a plant-based coach, she's helped people tap into the transformative power of plant-based eating, helping them change their lives in ways that many of them never dreamed possible. Tonight, she'll be talking to us about how to eat plant-based with ease and confidence, and we'll be showing us how to make plant-based eating doable, delicious, and fun. And I've asked our speaker to put up her contact information at the end of her talk for any of those of you who might like to find out more about her one-on-one virtual guidance for plant-based beginners and for those currently plant-based who just like to up their game. With that, I'm happy to introduce to you tonight our featured speaker, Michele Stamn. Michele?
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Terry, so much for that warm welcome, and thanks for having me here, and thanks everybody for being here tonight. I am very excited to talk with you tonight about, like Terry said, how to eat plant-based with ease and confidence. So let's get into it. Tonight, we're talking about how to eat plant-based with ease and confidence in just 3 steps, even for those of you who have tried before and felt stuck, so that you can feel amazing and enjoy long-term health in your body. Now, if any of these challenges sound like you, I want you to know that you are in the right place tonight. Maybe you're somebody who wants to take control of your health. Maybe you want to lower your blood pressure, like we just heard about with a plant-based diet, or lower your cholesterol, or maybe even reverse your prediabetes, different things like that. But you're unsure where to start. And honestly, you're a little bit worried that maybe it might even be too late. Or maybe you've tried plant-based eating before, but it felt overwhelming to you, unsustainable, left you feeling frustrated and just, you couldn't make it work in your real life. Or maybe you're somebody who loves the idea of eating plant-based, but you're just not sure about how to give up the foods you love, like cheese or eggs, or maybe you're just not quite sure how to deal with plant-based eating when it comes to family traditions or going out with your friends. Or maybe you're somebody who has all the vegan cookbooks. You've watched all the plant-based documentaries. You've downloaded hundreds of delicious sounding recipes, and you never, ever, ever miss a PBNOW meeting, but somehow you just can't get it to stick. Like I said, if any of those or all of those sound like you, tonight you are in the right place, because I have some very good news for you. You don't have a willpower problem. You don't need more resources, recipes, or research, and it's not about just trying a little bit harder this time and gritting your teeth and hanging on, just gripping a little bit harder. It's not about that. The problem is not a food problem, and it's not a willpower problem. It's a mindset problem. Okay, you might be feeling overwhelmed, like I said, stuck in perfectionism and unsure how to either get started or how to integrate this into your real life. What I want to tell you is you truly need to enjoy eating this way, because if you don't like it, you're not going to stick with it. And you're not trying to create health in your body just for a little while, right? Not just till your next doctor's appointment, not to your class reunion, not like that. You want health forever. And that means shifting your mindset and making plant-based eating work for you, not just at home, but in your real life, so that it fits into your real life, not the other way around. And the good news is it is totally possible. And tonight, you are going to discover how. Now, what I'm going to share tonight is meant to help 2 different types of people. There's a 3rd group of people here tonight, and I'll get to you in just a second. So the first type of person this is for is somebody who's heard about plant-based eating, and maybe you've seen others thriving on this lifestyle, but you're just not sure where to start. You might be wondering, what do I even eat? Or how could I make this work for my family? And can I really do this? And if I do figure it out, is it going to work for me anyways? You're curious, you're open-minded, and you're excited, but you're also feeling kind of overwhelmed about making this work. I'm going to call you the curious beginner. Now, second is the person who's tried plant-based eating before, but who just has not been able to make it stick. You started with enthusiasm, but then it just got to be a little too much, or maybe life got in the way. And now you're thinking, I tried this before, but I just couldn't keep it up. What's going to make it different this time, Michele? But here's the thing. If this sounds like you haven't given up because you are here. The fact that you're here shows that you're resilient, you're still hopeful, you're still determined, and you're ready to try again because you know with the right help and support, it can work for you. I'm going to call you the hopeful restarter. Now, like I said, there's one more group here tonight, not always in the groups that I speak with, but we're here at PBNOW, Plant-Based Nutrition Organization of Wisconsin. So I know there are also some seasoned pros in the crowd. So I want you to just drop in the chat which one of those sounds like you. Are you a curious beginner? You can put CB. If you're a hopeful restarter, HR. And if you're a seasoned pro, you can put SP, or you can even put PBNOW or something like that. So I'm just gonna peek here for a second. We've got hopeful restarter, seasoned pro, hopeful restarter, curious beginner, seasoned pro for 4 years, PBNOWer. All right, so we've got a pretty diverse crowd here, right? It's all over the map. So all of you are welcome. I'm thrilled that all of you are here because you know you're in the right place. Okay. And now I want to tell you, now that you know you're in the right place, I'm going to tell you where we are going today. Okay. So first, we are going to talk about your new way of thinking. We're going to focus on getting your thoughts and your mindset right because this is where the magic really happens. Next, we're going to talk about your new way of eating. We're going to talk a little bit about what a plant-based diet is, just so we're sure we're all on the same page. And then I'm going to share with you the real secret to making your plant-based diet work for you. Then we're going to talk about your new way of being. This is where we're going to bring it all together and make plant-based eating a natural, sustainable part of your life. Now, I want to just take a quick moment to introduce myself, although Terry did a great job, so I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. He already said I'm Michele Stamn and that I have this great health coaching practice. I've had the privilege of working with over 100 people, helping them transition to a plant-based diet. And before that, I was a physical therapist. And as a physical therapist, I worked with so many people. I didn't work with the people who had the torn rotator cuff or the knee replacement. I mean, I did a little bit, but so much of what I did in my work is I help people in rehab settings, long-term care facilities, nursing homes, that kind of thing. People who were working to recover from a devastating health event in their life. Maybe they had a stroke from that high blood pressure we heard about, or a heart attack from their high cholesterol. I think I wanted to reverse those in how I said it, but you get the idea. Heart problems with heart attacks and high cholesterol and strokes, and people who maybe lost a limb due to diabetes, that kind of thing. Those were the people I was helping. All the while I was learning about a plant-based diet, making it work in my life, loving the food, loving how I felt. And I thought, oh my goodness, for all my patients that I was helping with these difficult things, what if we could back up the story? What if those people had had the chance to make some different choices in what they ate just a little bit earlier in their life? That's what sent me back to school because I wanted to help those people and now you avoid those very devastating health situations they were in. Now I get it for them and maybe for some of you tonight, the way changing the way you eat can feel overwhelming. It can feel scary. It can feel confusing. And I know this because I've been there myself. I wasn't born a plant-based eater at all. No, just like many of you, I ate the standard American diet for the first 40 years of my life. The thing is, my standard American diet was like more of a standard Wisconsin diet, like mostly standard American diet topped with cheese. When my husband first met me, he asked me, do you hold, or he didn't ask me, he told me, you hold every single meal together with cheese. And all I could do was nod because he's totally right. I was addicted to this stuff. But finally, I got the cheese out of my life and all the other animal foods out of my life. I've been fully plant-based for well over a decade now. I love my food, even without the cheese, and I love how I feel. So that's part of why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I know if I can make the switch, give up my cheese habit, I know if I can do it, anybody can do it, surely you can do it. So if you are ready to improve your health, avoid chronic illness, and stay out of those nursing homes I used to work in through the power of a plant-based diet, then I know that yes, this is totally doable for you. Okay, so now that you know a little bit more about me, and now that you know why I'm so passionate about what I do, let's dive in, okay? To make plant-based eating truly work for you, not just for a few weeks, but for the rest of your life, you need more than recipes and meal plans. You need a solid foundation, and that foundation begins in your mind. You need a new way of thinking. This is where we get your brain on board. If you want plant-based eating to be sustainable in your life, you have to shift your mindset because your thoughts really do shape your plant-based success. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Talk about my thoughts? Is she off her rocker? I mean, what does that have to do with eating plant-based? And I seriously thought we were here to learn more about our health and our food. What are we doing? Now, okay, I get it. We are here to talk about those things. Dr. Liberman did a great job talking to us about some health things, right? And we're definitely going to get to food. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But for this way of eating to be truly sustainable, you guys, you've got to get more than just the food right. You have to get your thoughts right too, because here's the truth. Your thoughts directly shape your feelings, which drive your actions and ultimately determine your results. This is what I call the think, feel, act cycle. Now, I'm going to show you how this works in real life. If you approach plant-based eating with a thought that holds you back, like the one you see here on your screen, like, ugh, eating plant-based is just too darn hard. Now, if you're thinking like that, you're creating feelings in yourself, feelings of resignation, like, ugh, it's too hard. You're already resigned to that, right? There's no getting over it. You're feeling overwhelmed, confused, frustrated, probably deprived that you're not eating some of the foods you miss, right? When you feel those ways, I'm telling you, you're not going to stick with it. You're going to throw in the towel and give up on eating this way. And that will prove your thought true. Our results always prove our thoughts true. You'll confirm for yourself that it's too darn hard and you won't stick with it. Now, I'm a realistic person. I'm not crazy. I'm not going to ask you to jump from eating plant-based is just too darn hard all the way to like plant-based eating is easy peasy. Like that would be crazy, right? Like I don't expect you to do that. But how about instead of taking that crazy jump, we find a thought that might be a little bit more of just a step that could really work and help move you forward. Try this one on for size. I'm committed to figuring this out. Now, when you think I'm committed to figuring this out, that's kind of an empowering thought, right? It makes you feel strong, excited, motivated, maybe a little bit curious about, I wonder how this is going to work out in my life. Then from those feelings, you try new things. You approach this as a learning process, figuring things out as you go. Proving your thought true. Once again, our thoughts are always proved true by the results we create in our life. You confirm your commitment to figure it as you figure it out step by step and stick with it. Do you guys see how that thought, that one little sentence running through your mind really sets this whole cycle in motion, whether for the good or the bad? This is why getting your thoughts about plant-based eating right is absolutely critical to your success. When you approach plant-based eating with thoughts of drudgery, deprivation, and diet mentality, well, you're going to struggle. If you're constantly thinking this is too hard or I can't do this, it is going to feel difficult every step of the way and you will struggle to maintain it for the long term. But when you shift your thoughts to ones that empower you and inspire you, you're going to create feelings of curiosity, adventure, excitement, and even joy in yourself. And that's going to lead you to, keep going on your plant-based journey, creating results in your body that you are going to love. If you want to become a healthy plant-based eater, you have to think like one. And you guys, this is not about perfection. It's about awareness, right? Not every single thought you have is going to be helpful. Not every single thought I have is helpful. You, me, we're human after all, right? Those negative thoughts are going to sneak in. But please do at least pay attention to the thoughts running through your mind and ask yourself, are they holding you back? or are they moving you forward? Okay, now throughout my presentation, I am going to share with you some stories about real people. So real stories from real people who are making plant-based eating work in their real life. And the first person I want to tell you about is Chris, because having the right mindset made a huge difference for Chris, as you are about to see. Now, Chris and I worked together for 4 months, and she transitioned immediately to a plant-based diet. You can see here the amazing results she created in her body as a result of doing so. Now, her total cholesterol in those 4 months went from 218 to 111, LDL from 145 to 52. Now, I do have to pause and tell you, this was not entirely her plant-based diet. She took her cholesterol readings pretty seriously when she got them from the doctor, and right away she both started a statin and went on a plant-based diet. So obviously the statin gets some of the credit, a lot of the credit probably for those reduced cholesterol numbers. But Dr. Lieberman could answer this better than I can, but I'm thinking those are pretty strong results for statins. I think her plant-based diet gets some of the credit here too. Her thyroid numbers also improved so much that her doctor has been able to lower her medication for thyroid stuff, not just once, but twice. Her gut health improved so much that she no longer has any pain in her gut at all. Her GERD, her acid reflux totally went away. She was able to come off those meds. Her back and hip pain went away so much that her husband's like commenting on how great she's moving through the house. She has tons of energy and says she feels the best that she has ever felt. And oh yeah, Chris lost 30 pounds, which surpassed her goal weight. I mean, who surpasses their goal weight, right? Chris, that's who. Chris said that she was almost shocked at how easy it was to make the switch to eating plant-based and lose weight this way. And you guys, on the next slide, you are going to see that it felt this way to Chris because of her thoughts. Chris says that she never once felt deprived or like she felt like she was missing out from eating a plant-based diet, instead felt joyful and excited about her new way of eating. She was fueled by a clear vision of the future she wanted. She didn't want to struggle with all those health problems that she had seen so many of her friends and family struggle with. She wanted to feel good and live a long time, to spend the rest of her life with her husband, her kids, and her grandkids, and be around as long as she can be. Chris really did a great job also leaning into the fun. She loves kitchen gadgets. She loves cookbooks. So she treated herself to a few of those things along the way to just make this all a little bit more fun for herself. Now, Chris did have an occasional, what she calls a bingey day, a day where she was still eating vegan, but maybe a little vegan junk food or maybe a little too much of something, right? But instead of beating herself up for that, she was kind to herself through the process and just got back on track the next day. Finally, Chris was always excited about trying new foods, even foods she was a little bit nervous about, like, tofu. She was a little nervous about that. But as she tried new foods, she realized she actually really did like most of those foods. Okay, now I'm pretty sure you can see how all of those things tie back to Chris's thoughts. Now imagine what might change for you if you started choosing similar thoughts. When you get your thoughts right, you unlock the power to make plant-based eating not just possible for you, but truly enjoyable. And when plant-based eating is enjoyable, it becomes sustainable. And that's the whole point, right? You want to use plant-based eating in a sustainable way so you can keep creating amazing health in your body for years to come, just like Chris. All right. So now let's talk about how to get your thinking in a helpful place right from the start. I really want to emphasize these next three things because they often trip people up at the beginning. And I want to make sure that any curious beginners of you out there watching this, we want to get you off to a really strong start, okay? All right, so first, believing in yourself. Believing in yourself is honestly one of the most overlooked things, even though it's one of the most important steps on this journey. Now, I know the idea, if plant-based eating is new to you, I know the idea of plant-based eating and believing in yourself might feel daunting right now, maybe even impossible. You might be thinking, oh, I can't do this. Or like I used to think, I could never give up cheese. Or maybe you're thinking, this isn't going to work for me. Nothing ever works for me. Okay, so if you're thinking those things, It's okay. You don't have to fully believe in yourself just yet. Instead, though, suspend your disbelief. Put aside those thoughts. Put them on the shelf for now. They're not serving you anyway. And then take the first step. And that's where the
Ah,
magic
that smells good.
is
Mm.
going to start. Somebody's got a good dinner tonight. That's fantastic. Okay.
Mm.
You
Mm.
are going to notice, as you take that first step, you're going to notice some changes in your body and you're going to start to love your food, hopefully as much as that guy just did. And as those things happen, you will start to believe little by little. And that's exactly what happened for one of my clients, Mary. When Mary and I met, she told me, I've tried plant-based eating in the past, but it just doesn't stick for me. So she really didn't believe it was going to work this time either. But she took a deep breath, she suspended her disbelief, and she just started taking one step at a time. And now I want you to see what Mary said at one of our last sessions. She said, I now fully believe that eating the healthy plant-based way is going to be sustainable for me this time around because it has just become a natural part of who I am. Now, to be clear, this is not where Mary started when I met her. When I met her, she said that she felt like eating whole food plant-based was like being in prison. So from being in prison to feeling like it's just a natural part of who she is, that's a huge jump. And it all has led to her being able to, now she believes in herself, right, as a plant-based eater. Okay. And as a result, she's creating some excellent health in her body. She has lost 20 pounds, which means she's getting some cute new tops that she's wearing to our sessions. So fun to see. Her cholesterol is down. Her blood sugar is evened out. And then what's maybe been even the most fun to see is not just the health changes, but the fact that she's so much more self-confident now and she just feels good. All of this because Mary chose to suspend her disbelief and just get started. One of the best parts of my job, honestly, is watching people like Mary go from, I can't do this to like, yes, I really can do this. And you can do it too. And won't it be so much fun when you realize this actually can work for you? All right, so the next step is about making a decision to not let overwhelm stop you. When you first think about going plant-based, there feels like there is so much to figure out, right? New foods, new ingredients, new recipes, new routines, and that feeling of overwhelm can leave you feeling stuck, not knowing where to start or what to do next. I remember exactly what that feels like. I went to write my first plant-based grocery list, you guys, and I remember thinking, I have no idea what I am doing. I was totally overwhelmed. I don't know. Any of you ever feel that way? I mean, up until then, I had built my meals around meat. I was used to that being the star of the show. So as I wrote my grocery list, I was thinking like, okay, meatloaf. And then we'll also, oh wait, we don't eat meatloaf. And I just kept getting flustered and floundering through my grocery writing list. And I was like, I can't even write the grocery list. How on earth am I going to feed my family for the rest of my life? I felt so overwhelmed. But this change mattered to me. So I did what I just did there. I took a deep breath and I just made one change at a time. I made a decision to not be overwhelmed. I started small. I tapped into resources. I gave myself permission to learn as I went, which was good because I definitely made mistakes, right? There were cooking mishaps, bumbled restaurant orders, all kinds of things went wrong, but I did not let those moments derail me. I kept going and I figured it out as I went. And I want to encourage you to do the same. Make a decision to not be overwhelmed. Start with one small change. You don't have to overhaul everything at once. And just like me, you will learn as you go. Chances are you'll start creating some wins right away, and those wins will help you keep going. Let me tell you about another client of mine, MV, her initials, and she was overwhelmed when we got started. She was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat for breakfast and lunch and dinner and my kids? And then we have this wedding and vacation coming up. What am I going to do? And I was like, take a deep breath. Let's start with one meal, okay? Let's just start with your breakfast. And that's exactly what we did. We started with her breakfast. Now, she had been eating eggs pretty much every day for breakfast. And I was like, well, that's not plant-based. So let's get rid of those. And instead, why don't you try oatmeal every day for breakfast? Do you like oatmeal? Yep, she loved oatmeal. Great. So she had oatmeal every day for breakfast. We left lunch and dinner alone for now. Oatmeal with some almond milk and blueberries and walnuts or something like that, right? Ate that every day for 2 weeks. Guess what happened in those 2 weeks? Her knee pain, which had been like a 6 or 7 on a 10-point scale, went down to a 2 on that 10-point scale. This means she could now run up and down the stairs with no pain, even though she had previously been like leaning on the rail or the wall every single step she took. And get this, you guys, she could now kneel in church after 10 years of not being able to kneel in church. Just changing her breakfast to a plant-based, breakfast lowered the inflammation in her body so much that she could now kneel in church, okay? In just 2 weeks. Not only that, the swelling in her ankles started going down so she could wear these cute little shoes she brought to our session and showed me. And she lost 2 pounds. Now, it wasn't just that she lost 2 pounds. It was just that her health started improving in all these different ways. So much so that her friend from work said, hey, have you lost weight? Now, after all this happened in the first 2 weeks of just changing her breakfast, you can imagine she was no longer feeling overwhelmed. Instead, she was excited to find out, oh my goodness, what can I do for lunch and dinner? Because she wanted to create more of those changes in her health. So she was very motivated. Creating those wins helped her to overcome the overwhelm, which helped her keep going. Okay. Now, do I have any perfectionists in the house? If so, please don't let your perfectionism stand in your way, because perfectionism is another thing that can really trip people up. I have met a lot of people who think they have to have this whole thing figured out before they even get started, and that pressure keeps them from getting started in the first place. So whatever you do, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. You don't need to get it perfect, but you do need to start. And honestly, when you mess up or get off track, that's totally fine. That is not failure. That is learning. I always tell my clients we're either winning or we're learning. There is no losing around here. The only two options are winning and learning. And that's great because both of those things lead to transformation and growth, which is exactly what we're looking for. So please, if you are a perfectionist, still set the perfectionism aside and just get started, because here's the truth. The magic does not happen in planning to get everything right. The magic happens in the doing. Let me tell you about Bob. Now, when we met, Bob wanted to go all in on his plant-based diet. I mean, whole food plant-based, no oil, no sugar, no salt, perfection. And he would do that for a couple of days, but then he would get tripped up. Things wouldn't go quite right. And then he would throw in the towel and he went not back to like slightly off eating, but he went back to all his old, very not plant-based favorites. Okay. Maybe you've been there. So I encourage Bob to give himself a little bit of grace and not aim for being totally perfect. So then Bob brought in some vegan store-bought ranch dressing to go on top of his giant salad. Still a giant salad filled with beautiful plants, just a little store-bought vegan ranch dressing to top it with, right? He also occasionally ate a frozen vegan meal when he just didn't have the energy for cooking. And yes, when Bob went out with his friends, he would have vegan pizza, not whole food. Not all these things are whole food plant-based, but they definitely are all vegan. And these slightly imperfect things help Bob to stick with it. And you guys, guess what happened next? Look at this. Bob lost 130 pounds. This means Bob needed a brand new wardrobe, not once, but twice. You know, there's a few sizes you travel through at 130 pounds, right? And not only did he step into some new clothes, he stepped into an entirely new identity. He's like healthy plant-based Bob now. And healthy plant-based Bob is very excited for this summer's pool parties, where last summer, probably not so excited, right? These were so fun to see, but also he made some serious changes in his health. His blood pressure normalized, his total cholesterol is down now to 189, and his GERD, his acid reflux, totally went away. Bob is totally a new man because he stopped letting perfectionism get in his way. Your new way of thinking makes this doable. When you stop letting perfectionism hold you back, when you overcome your overwhelm, and you believe in yourself and in the power of plant-based eating, and when you choose thoughts that are helpful, plant-based eating becomes so much more manageable, even doable. This is the foundation that helps everything fall into place for you. Your new way of eating, I'll say, or your new way of thinking, one more time, makes this doable. Now, your new way of eating, now that you've started thinking differently, let's shift gears and talk about what you're actually going to eat. Because yes, mindset is crucial, but at the end of the day, this still is about what you're putting into your mouth, okay? Now, you PBNOW regulars already know this, but for those of you who might be new here, I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So let's start with a quick answer to a common question. What even is a plant-based diet? And simply put, it is a diet that is centered around plants. It includes vegetables and fruits, whole grains, beans and legumes, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices, and yes, dark chocolate. And it includes, deep breath here, appetizers, sandwiches, salads, casseroles, pastas, soups, stir fries, tacos, burritos, breads, muffins, smoothies, oatmeal, granola, pancakes, snacks, and desserts. Really anything that you would want to eat. Okay, so now that you know the basics, there's one more thing you need to know about your plant-based food, and this is the most important thing. So I want you to listen up. Your plant-based food needs to be delicious. Why? Because when you love eating your plant-based food, there is no deprivation involved whatsoever, which makes everything so much easier. Motivation, discipline, willpower, those are not the key. Loving your food is. Now think about it. You don't have to like psych yourself up to sit down on the couch and watch your favorite Netflix show. No, you do it because you love it. You don't have to give yourself a pep talk to watch your favorite sports team tonight, right? Nope. Again, you do it because you love it, because you want to. And that's exactly how it should feel with your plant-based food. You should love it so much that you don't have to force yourself or rely on motivation. You just want to eat it. Because when food is truly delicious, it doesn't matter if it's plant-based or not, it's just good food. I recently had a client ask me if I thought she should label her food as vegan when she went to a potluck with her friends, and I told her that is not necessary because nobody cares if it's plant-based as long as it looks good and it tastes good. Everybody is going to want to eat it. That's all they care about. How do I know this? Well, it happens for my clients and it has happened for me. I brought these. Now, I just real quick, I'll pause and say, I dropped a link in the chat for all of these recipes of these beautiful foods you see here. So you can either scroll up to the top of the chat and grab those, or I will drop it in the chat after I'm done speaking. But yes, I want you to have all these recipes because they are so good. And I have been asked for these recipes time and time again. These date treats you see on the left, they are whole food plant-based. They use dates and nuts and a little bit of fruit and oatmeal and cacao powder, hooray. And I took those date treats to a wedding shower. Don't think my food always looks like that in my house because it does not. But at the wedding shower, I made it beautiful. And those date treats sat next to those frosted cookies and cupcakes you see, and my date treats disappeared before those other things did. I got asked the recipe for that recipe of those many, many times. Next, this vegan queso, whole food plant-based queso. I know the chips aren't whole food plant-based, but forgive me because I was serving them at my daughter's graduation party. And, you know, there were like 70 people there, including a lot of picky teenagers. So I thought I did pretty good getting away with the vegan queso. They loved it. I got asked for that recipe. And then I have a few clients who have taken that same dish to a Super Bowl party. First thing gone at the Super Bowl party. I've been told that twice. Finally, on the right is lasagna with tofu ricotta. I make that every single year for Christmas for my family. And the reason I make it every single year for my family is because they ask me to, because they love it. In fact, one of my clients, I just shared that recipe with her and she calls it luscious lasagna. So I might need to rename it. So, and it's not just my friends and family or my clients' friends and family who ask for the recipes. This can totally happen for you too. The plant-based food you bring to an event doesn't have to be second best or just kind of politely ignored at the potluck. It really can be the dish that everybody is raving about, the one that people ask you the recipe for. Okay, again, let's hear another real story from another real client. This person's name is Pam. And when Pam and I started working together, Pam had two big concerns. She wanted to know, is this way of eating really going to be sustainable for me? Because she had tried about 10 years earlier for a while, but she just couldn't make it stick. Secondly, she wanted to know if she was going to actually be able to cook plant-based food that tasted good. She wanted to know if she was going to like the food. She was worried because she really didn't like cooking and she really didn't like grocery shopping. I'm sure I can relate to that one. I'm sure many of you can as well. The grocery shopping thing anyway. But here is where, after working together, Pam landed about her food. This is a direct quote from Pam. The food is absolutely delicious. Delicious. The food is so satisfying and filling. That's exactly how she said it to me. Not only does Pam love her food, but her family and friends do too. She said she's never once had a complaint when she's been making this food for her adult children or grandchildren. And not only does her husband not complain, but he brags about her cooking to her friends. And side note, he's had some pretty serious health benefits from eating this way too, even sort of as a secondary vegan, right? Pam doesn't miss meat, eggs, or cheese or dairy at all. And she loves being able to skip those departments in the grocery store. Cooking no longer feels like a chore for her because she's feeling better, which helps her to do better, which helps her to feel better and do better. And that cycle keeps going on and on and on, which is how Pam knows this is going to be sustainable for her now. Now, what happened to Pam when she loved her food and made this a sustainable way of eating for herself? Well, look at this. In just the first 8 weeks of eating plant-based, she took her prediabetes down to a normal A1C. Her cholesterol dropped by 44 points, including 25 points of LDL cholesterol coming down. Those are good things. She had, her doctor was concerned about her bad estrogen, and this totally normalized. Pam lost 10 pounds. Pam did not have much to lose, but she got that 10 pounds off, and that wasn't even really a goal for her, but it just happened, and she was thrilled because now her pants fit better. The arthritis pain in her knees completely went away. She can now run up and down the stairs with no problem. And this was really the best part. Pam had really been struggling with some arthritis pain in her hands and her thumbs, making it hard for her to open jars and do a lot of other things. That pain has gone down by, she says, about 90 to 95%, almost totally gone, which means now she can open jars without pain. She can write, she can garden, she can play with her kids with those little, or grandkids with those little doll clothes and no pain. And then this is the best part, you guys. Pam's able to communicate with her daughter-in-law who is deaf and uses only sign language as a way of communicating. Now, before reducing the inflammation in her body so much with a plant-based diet, Pam's hands were really hurting to the point where she wasn't sure she was going to be able to continue communicating with her daughter-in-law through fingerspelling anymore. But through the power of the plant-based diet, her hands don't really hurt anymore, and she can now fingerspell with her daughter-in-law, which, I mean, life-changing, right? As you just heard from Pam, not only is your new way of eating powerful for creating health in your body, but also your new way of eating is delicious. Loving your plant-based food definitely makes everything easier, but there's one more piece to making this truly sustainable in the long run. Because plant-based eating isn't just about what you eat, it's about how you live. Which brings us to our third step, your new way of being. This step is about more than just what's on your plate. It's about creating a lifestyle that feels enjoyable, exciting, so that you want to do it and so that it fits into your real life for the long run. One of the most important ways to make this happen, find ways to make it be fun. I will tell you some advice I never knew I was going to have, but from my experience as a health coach, I can tell you guys that my clients who are the most successful, the ones who really are able to stick with plant-based eating, are the ones who find ways to have fun with it. Which honestly makes sense, doesn't it? When you're having fun with something, you want to stick with it. So how do you make it fun? Well, I've got plenty of ideas. I'm going to share a few of them here with you tonight. Treat yourself. You remember what Chris did? She treated herself to few plant-based cookbooks. So you can treat yourself to that. If it's not in the budget, go to the library. They have a lot of plant-based cookbooks there. You can also go out to a vegan restaurant to sample some vegan food, or you can go to a vegan festival. The food isn't always perfectly healthy, but you will connect with a lot of like-minded people at those kinds of events. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is a vegan event in Milwaukee next weekend on June 22nd called Vegan Mania Milwaukee. It's in West Dallas. And I know not everybody here, I know we've got people here from all over the country, but it's still called Plant-Based Nutrition Organization of Wisconsin. So I feel like I can mention this. There's this event. It's fun. There's 103 vendors there, you guys. And like I said, not all the food will be healthy, but it will all be vegan, and it gives you the chance to connect with some like-minded people. Now, if you don't live in the Milwaukee area, I'm sorry, I would love to meet you too. But check the internet. There is surely some vegan festivals in your area as well, and they're usually in the summertime. And here we are at the beginning of summer, so you can probably find something. If you can't, there are plant-based Facebook groups and stuff like that. And look at this. There's PBNOW, and you're all here. So it really helps and is more fun when you are part of a community. So that's just another way to make it fun. And you know what else is fun? Feeling great. It is pretty darn fun to be able to hike without knee pain when you haven't been able to do so for years. It is pretty darn fun to fall asleep without acid reflux getting in your way. It is pretty darn fun to be able to go to the doctor and find out that your cholesterol has come down by 60 points, or maybe that you're able to come off a medication instead of adding a new one to your regimen. That's why making plant-based eating fun is so very important, because when you're having fun, you will want to stick with it. And that's what's going to help you continue to create amazing health in your body for years to come. Your new way of eating, or your new way of being and eating, is fun. Now, part of what makes plant-based eating fun for you is knowing that you can take it with you wherever you go, which can be one of the most daunting steps for people, which I totally get. So that's why we're going to spend just a little bit of time digging into this, okay? Let's talk about what it looks like to take your plant-based show on the road. Because here's the thing. Just because you're plant-based now does not mean you want to miss out on all the fun that life has to offer. You are the same person that you have always been. You still love going to picnics, potlucks, and parties, right? You still want to travel, visit your friends, and go to restaurants. None of that has changed since you started to eat plant-based. Eating plant-based does not mean sitting home by yourself all day eating salads. Taking your plant-based show on the road is 100% possible, and I know this because I have done it. Now, I don't know if my kids would agree, but I like to think I'm kind of a fun person, and I don't want to miss out on all that life has to offer, and I certainly don't want to stay home when I could be out with my friends, right? So I've learned a few things that have helped me along the way, and I want to share those with you tonight. I've learned that there are 4 keys for success when eating plant-based away from home. The first and the most important key is to create a plan ahead of time. When you plan ahead, you won't get stuck in a food situation you'd rather not be in, right? When you take time to figure out what you're going to eat before you get there, you'll feel prepared and confident. And that way you won't just hurriedly order something off the menu because the waiter is back for the 3rd time, okay? Make a plan and that way you can avoid that. So before you eat out, check online for the menus to see what options are available. Before you travel, again, look online or call ahead. And you can call the places you're staying or look online to find the places you're staying, but you can also check with the airlines if you're having a long flight where food is going to be served. Before attending a party or event, find out what the food situation is going to be so you can adjust accordingly. If you find out there aren't going to be plant-based options there, you have a few options. You can bring a plant-based dish to share. You can bring some plant-based food that you can sort of eat on the side to enhance your meal. Or you can just eat ahead of time so you don't get stuck there with nothing to eat and you're starving and all of a sudden you're eating something you don't want to be eating, right? When you take just a little time to plan ahead, everything feels less stressful and you're so much more likely to stay on track. Now, the second key is to communicate. And you can do this even if you're introverted and you don't want to draw a lot of attention to yourself, okay? Because I'm not talking about making a big speech or proclamation to everyone in the room about how great plant-based eating is, but I am talking about speaking up for yourself a little bit, advocating for yourself, that kind of thing. If you're not sure if something on a restaurant menu is vegan or plant-based, give them a call and ask a few questions. This can really help for people when they're maybe nervous about asking these questions in front of their friends. So maybe that's you. But if it is you and you don't have a chance to make that phone call, please still ask the waiter at the table if something is plant-based or if they can do something to make it plant-based. Just be your polite self and everything will be totally fine. If you're heading to a dinner party, call the host ahead of time and ask if you can bring a plant-based dish to share. Like, or you don't even have to call out it's plant-based. Like I said, you bring something delicious, like one of those pictures you saw earlier, nobody's going to even care, right? Most people will just appreciate your thoughtfulness and it guarantees you that you're going to have something delicious to eat. And honestly, the more you communicate, the more it is easier for others to support you, which is what we're going to talk about next under consistency, because consistency is important for two reasons. First, for your health. For plant-based eating to improve your health, it does have to be part of your everyday life, not just something you do willy-nilly here and there, okay? When plant-based eating becomes a consistent habit, your body can fully experience the transformation that plants provide. Second, be consistent for the people around you. When you're consistent, those people will begin to understand and respect the choices that you're making, and then they'll be able to support you. But if you one week meet up with your friends and tell them, oh, I'm totally whole food plant-based, and then the next week you're like, oh, I don't want to make a big deal about this, so I'm just going to eat some cheese pizza. How are they going to know what you want to eat? And they won't know how to support you. Okay. So please be consistent. It's not just better for you, it's honestly better for your friends and family as well. And when I say consistency, I am not talking about perfection. Okay. We're all gonna bumble it once in a while, and that's totally okay. But when it gets bumbled, learn from that situation, and then you'll know how to handle it differently next time. All right. The fourth key is confidence. Now, again, confidence doesn't mean being outspoken or making a big deal about all of your choices. Quiet confidence works too. This is not about making a big statement. It's simply about owning your decisions and knowing that what you want to eat and how you want to feel matters. You deserve to eat the food you want to eat, and you deserve to feel the way you want to feel. And the truth is, when you are confident about and comfortable with your choices, it's going to be a whole lot easier for people to get on board and support you. They'll see this is just how you eat, and they'll get used to it and adjust for it. When you create a plan, communicate, stay consistent, and own your choices with confidence, you will see that plant-based eating away from home can totally be doable. In fact, it's a big part of what makes your new way of being fun. Now, I want to tell you one more real story about some real people. Their names are David and Melissa. I worked with them as a couple, and yes, I work with couples too. I actually love working with couples because this support system is built right in, so it's super fun. But David and Melissa did such a great job with this, fun thing. They had a blast exploring their new lifestyle together. They went to the Vegan Fest. They checked out plant-based restaurants. They took their plant-based show on the road. They went to Turks and Caicos for a romantic getaway. and they went to the Wisconsin Dells for like an extended family trip. They were probably the most nervous about that because they were worried about what their family was going to think, and they, navigating all those food situations. But they did just what we talked about. They communicated, they stayed consistent, they owned their choices, and it worked well. Their family loved them, loves them, so they wanted to support them, right? Okay, so what were their results? David, his cholesterol dropped 43 points in just 6 weeks, and he'd like dropped 10 pounds without thinking about it. Now, David had just spent a full year fighting cancer, going through all kinds of cancer treatments. Happy to report he's had multiple great reports from his cancer doctor. The cancer has stayed away. That was part of what motivated them to go plant-based. Also, after chemo, your body's kind of depleted, right? But the plant-based diet really helped David jump back in and boost his energy levels. And the nerve function, he had really lost a lot of nerve function in his fingers and toes, and that came back like 90%, I believe is what he said during the time we were working together, which allowed him to be discharged from the neurologist. What happened to Melissa? Well, her joint pain went away. Her blood pressure is perfect. She lost 15 pounds, a little bit harder to lose than David's, right? Often the case for us women. She had an unexpected surgery while we were working together, but she came through that surgery with flying colors. That was the very medical terminology that her doctor used, right? Because he was amazed at how fast she bounced back after this surgery. She was back to work in a week after this surgery. And it wasn't major, but it was kind of a big deal. And she was able to get back to work way faster than he thought she was going to. She's sleeping better, has more energy, is thinking more clearly. And this is my favorite part. She looks amazing. And she told me a story about how, so Melissa works at multiple different offices. And one day she was at one of the offices and then had to leave for another meeting somewhere else. And afterwards, one of her friends called her and said, "Oh, Melissa, you were the talk of the office after you left." And she was like, yikes. You don't always want to be the talk of the office, right? You don't quite know what that means. But her friend was like, no, Melissa, this is a good thing. Everybody was talking about you because you just look amazing. Okay. Now, this is pretty great, huh? This is what Melissa said at our very last session. She said that she does not see plant-based eating as hard. In fact, she can't believe how easy it is, can't stress the ease of this enough. She just doesn't even think about this anymore. She has plenty to eat. She's learned it's about so much more than tofu, and eating plant-based is now just her way of life. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, those quotes all sound like doable, delicious, and fun, which is Melissa's new way of life. And it can be your new way of life too. If you are ready to become somebody who sees a plant-based lifestyle as doable, delicious, and fun, and you'd like a little bit of help with that, I would love to help you get started or recommit if you're a restarter, okay? If you're interested in working together, your first step is super easy. You just reach out to me and we set up a time to chat. You can do that. There are links in the chat, and I'll drop some more in the chat just to refresh it after I hop off here. You can use this QR code. Screenshot this screen if that's helpful to you, but you can email me, use the QR code, find it on my website, any of those places. But we'll just chat. You can probably tell I like to talk, so it won't be hard. We'll just chat for 30 to 45 minutes, no charge for that conversation. It's just a chance for us to get to know each other a little bit. And if you're not quite ready to book a consult yet, that's totally fine. But if you want to learn more about making your plant-based journey doable, delicious, and fun, then please sign up for my roadmap for your plant-based journey to better health. It includes all kinds of stuff like the things we talked about tonight. It includes some recipes for some great plant-based favorites of mine, the vegan bolognese sauce, my famous chocolate chip cookies. And it includes a guide to eating out and a whole bunch of other stuff that can help you with mindset things and navigating social situations and stuff like that. So again, my website, email me, however is easiest for me to reach you is exactly how I want to do that. So all right, I will stop screen sharing, and I think I saw a few questions going into the chat. So let's see what we do with that.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, do you want to pop in the chat and look up the questions, or would you rather I?
Sure, I can scroll up. I just dropped for anybody who wants any of those links in the chat. Go ahead. I'm glad Dr. Liberman answered all those, hard medical questions before I got here. I saw somebody looked up about the life expectancy of power lifters. They said it's comparable or slightly longer than the general population. That was from a study from years ago. Um, Asked about Dr. Prager's burgers. I think this might have been a question for Dr. Liberman before I hopped on. I will say I won't. I guess I can't answer for him. I don't know if he's still on and wants to answer, but I think ingredient wise, from what I know of them, they're pretty good. But the ones I've tried, I haven't been the biggest fan. I like to make my own. I think they taste better. And the blood pressure question, I will leave for Dr. Liberman. Let's see here. Um, if you want to try out plant-based food, Barb says, try River West Food Co-op and Cafe. They're at the corner of Fratney and Clark Streets. Great food, 95% organic and lots of Milwaukee products. Their menu has been expanded. Yum. David says it helps to connect with like-minded plant-based enthusiasts. One way is with the Wauwatosa Vegan Vegetarian Meetup group. Search on meetup.com. Patrick says, thank God for ChatGPT, which is helping him come up with foods and ingredients that are compatible on a whole food plant-based diet. That's right. AI isn't all good, but it really is a very helpful tool. And it's good for helping people, Judith says, with people struggling with SOS-free recipes, ChatGPT or Googling. Somebody asked SOS. So in the plant-based world, we say WFPV for whole food plant-based, and then SOS stands for sugar, salt, I think it goes salt, oil, sugar free. Yep, and somebody answered that. Where is the list to which Michelle is referring? That must be the recipes, which I dropped in the chat. If you can't find them, Karen, shoot me an email. Oh, thank you, David. He says if you do go to Vegan Fat or Vegan Mania Milwaukee, visit Michelle's booth. Oh, he already knows it's number 67. I didn't know that yet. Thank you, David. And PBNOW has a booth number 63. So, and David's going to have over 80 educational and inspirational plant-based and vegan articles and fact sheets. So see, there's going to be some of us healthy ones, us there amidst the vegan donuts and pizza. So, Lonnie likes Strangetown, Milwaukee. You guys are great. Lots of comments, not hard questions for me. Strangetown in Milwaukee on the east side is a great vegan restaurant, and Vegan Mania is, yep, lots of good food, great people, fun. Lonnie says most great chefs will love to please their clients and will accommodate your whole food plant-based requests. I will tell you, one of the best meals I think I've ever had at a restaurant. I was invited out. One of my daughter's best friend graduated from high school a few years ago, and my daughter and I were kind of honored guests at their family took everybody, like the extended family, out for dinner at a very nice restaurant, which I did not know ahead of time. And here we are at honored guests, right? We weren't part of the family, we were friends. So I felt very honored to be there, and I did not want to make a big deal about my vegan lifestyle. So I just quietly asked the chef or the waiter on the side, I'm like, oh, it works better at a nice restaurant, and this was nice. I asked if they could make me a vegan plant-based meal, and he was like, oh, sure, no problem. He came out with this gorgeous dish of pasta with the most beautiful grilled vegetables on it. And there was not a lot of oil on it, but they put a little chili oil on at the end to give it just that hint of spice. I am telling you, chef's kiss. It was like the best meal I probably had in a decade. I mean, it was amazing. And I'll tell you, when you make those, now again, like I did, quietly, politely made those requests. I'm told chefs are chefs because they're creative people and they want to, they make the same thing every day in and day out. So they're, at least when they're not too busy, I've been told anyway, they're excited to make some new dishes once in a while and exercise their creative muscles. And plus then, like I mean, mine was the freshest meal on the table for sure. So, B, thank you, B. She says those cookies are so darn good. They are, I can say that. B says strongest man in the world is vegan, from the Game Changers documentary about vegan athletes. Judith says that having a partner, a trusted friend who is journeying with you is really helpful. 100%, Judith. I love that you guys speak regularly and share recipes and tips. That's fantastic. Lonnie says Plant Joy delivery is great. Their meals are fantastic. I would give them a thumbs up as well. And suggestion of Sprouts is fabulous. Okay, good, good. And then thank you, Judith, for incorporating some of my stuff about mindset into your program. You're welcome. And Larry said started eating Beyond Burger and loves it. Any criticism? I sort of look at plant-based eating on a spectrum, right? I can go out, in hopefully a couple months and hopefully even sooner and pick some fresh picked local organic kale from my garden. Okay. That's on one of the end of the spectrum of vegan food. Okay. Maybe plant-based is the wrong word, but a vegan food. Or I can go to the state fair and have a vegan, I don't know, or deep fried Oreo or something. I don't know if it's really vegan, but Oreos are anyway. There's a whole lot of space in between. Anytime you're moving closer to the kale, I think you're doing better. A Beyond Burger is better than a meat burger. It's still not as healthy as, like a homemade burger from beans and rice. But if a Beyond Burger is what you can do, then that's what you should do. That's what I think. Like I talked about Bob, like once he stopped letting perfection get in his way, he was able to lose 130 pounds. So I never want perfectionism to trip people up, and would rather have people moving towards increasingly plant-based. Anytime you're eating, even if it's not totally healthy, there is no actual cholesterol in anything that is plant food. There's no hormones in plant food, so there's a lot of benefits to that. Let's see, and then Sylvia just says an example, garbanzo is protein, avocado fat, quinoa carb, berries fruit, raw veggies, 1 cup, half cooked veggies. This is one complete meal, all nutrients. Sounds good to me. Quinoa, the foods are different things too. Like garbanzo beans have protein and carbs, and quinoa has protein and carbs. So it's not, I tend to think about food more than protein, carbs, and fat, but those are all important things too. So, all right, that's what I see in the chat. I don't know if there's anything else, but
I don't see anything else. And a lot of good questions, a lot of good information there. And Michele, that was just outstanding. We spend a lot of time talking about why plant-based eating is good, and with a lot of the doctors from across the country. But to actually get into the nuts and bolts of what it is, how to do it, and the behavioral part of this whole thing, as you said, is key. And then the other big part of it, as you mentioned, is delicious food.
yep.
So if you can
Yep.
get those things down, and I'd say too, it helps to have a guide. Now, I'm talking about a fishing guide is not necessarily appropriate for PBNOW, but but when people go fishing and they want to actually catch fish, and especially going to a different place, they'll often get a guide. And I know a number of friends who are excellent fishermen, but if they're going up north in Canada or something like that, they get a guide because they know they're going to be more successful if they do that.
Mhm.
So I've talked to Michele and looked at some of her program in it, and she is so well organized. And I would say this too, and we don't often get into well, anyway, I'd say this too. Being a physical therapist is very similar. That's working one-on-one with people for a not forever, but over a certain period of time until you get to the results that you're looking for. And that's exactly what Michele does. And with a vast amount of knowledge that she's picked up, not only from the reading she's done, but from the actual people that she's worked with. And I was so happy that you put so many examples of that in here and how the people felt it about their results.
Yeah.
For me and a number of other people who kind of jumped in with both feet, you feel so much better so quickly. And as personally, I was working out 3 times a week. I thought I was staying in good shape. I lost over 30 pounds that I didn't know I
Wow.
needed to lose, but I got down to my high school weight, and I can tell you that 30 pounds wasn't muscle.
Mhm.
And that happened along with a lot of the other things Michele was talking about. And one of those things is just this great feeling you have, and feeling the ability to be more active and be more involved. And so the behavioral side, or however you want to call that, Michele, is super important in all of this. And that does make it sustainable. You just don't want to go back to those things that were going on before. And so you've done an extremely good job of not only explaining that, but showing examples of how they can help. So thank you so much. So thanks again to Dr. Joshua Lieberman and to our featured speaker, Michele Stamn. Thanks so much for
Yeah,
sharing valuable
thanks for
time.
having me.
And thanks for coming, everybody. Good night, and hope you can join us next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.